I feel like if you ask the casual college football fan who won the ACC football championship in 2025, most people would say Miami, who didn't even play for the ACC championship, by the way. The Hurricanes made the national title game, but they didn't play for the ACC championship. Any college football diehards or Duke Blue Devil fans will tell you that Duke won the ACC, beating Virginia last year. And it's going to be a fun trivia question and years to come as people forget what Duke accomplished in 2025. Listen, you're listening to the You Think You Know Sports podcast. This is episode number 3, taking a tour around college football. It is May the 8th, so we still have over 100 days before the season starts. But I know people love college football. They want information on these teams coming up, and today we're talking about the Duke Blue Devils, the ACC champions, the team this season that I think that history is going to forget for many people. Duke went 9-5 last year. 6-2 in the ACC, won a weird 5-team tiebreaker to get that bid to the ACC championship game. You got Manny Diaz back for his third year. He's 18-9 at Duke so far. And listen, given Duke's history, 18-9 at Duke, pretty incredible. The last time that Duke won 10 games was 2013. And here is a fun trivia fact for your friends. That's the only time Duke has ever won 10 games in a college football season. So the year that Duke won the ACC, they did not win 10 games. They only won 9, but they did do it in 2013. So for a while this offseason, it looked like this Duke team was going to be pretty loaded, man. It looked like they were going to be in pretty good shape to challenge Miami, to challenge at the top of this conference. And instead, things changed very quickly. You know, if you were following my show, and I've got 10,000 followers on TikTok, I go live daily. This podcast is a brand new thing that I'm doing to add to that, along with many other things. Miami was like, hey, who's going to play quarterback for Miami next year? Because obviously Carson Beck was going to move on to the NFL. Darian Mensah was still the quarterback at Duke. And then all of a sudden, Mensah ended up at Miami. It changed very quickly where Duke lost its star quarterback. You know, Mensah, one of my favorite things about him that is talked about a lot on my show, he's not afraid to air it out, man. 86 passes of 20-plus yards downfield last year. That is a pro football focused stat. Duke aired it out. They challenged your defense, right? They challenged your defense. The fact that they also, meaning Miami, took Cooper Barkate, one of Duke's best receivers, along with Mensah, just makes it hurt worse. So who is going to play quarterback for this Duke team? Walker Eget came over from San Jose State. And I'll tell you the things that I like and the things I don't love as much. 18 touchdowns, 9 picks. He was only sacked 6 times all year. I love that. The other thing I love is he threw it deep 82 times, meaning 20-plus air yards, the same stat I just gave you for Mensah. He threw it 82 times down the field, third most in the country. Mensah was second, I believe. So you go find another guy who's comfortable stretching defenses. I think that's huge for Duke. You know, there are guys who just throw it within 20 yards of the line of scrimmage 95% of the time. Walker Eget is not that guy. He was 11th nationally in passing yards per game, finishing just behind Mensah. He averaged 277 yards passing per game. But Eget was not healthy for the spring, so Dan Mahan, a freshman, was the only healthy real contender in the spring in this quarterback battle. And you have to wonder if he gained some ground there because, obviously getting all of the touches and getting a chance to lead the offense, it'll be interesting to see who ends up taking the first snap. I believe that the intention was fully for Eget probably to be the quarterback, and I'm not saying he will not be, but you do have to wonder if Mahan did enough in the spring to make this a real competition as we go to the fall. It seems like it absolutely is. What we do know for sure is that this Duke offense is going to be heavily behind running back Nate Shepard, who had over 1,100 yards rushing, 11 touchdowns. He was second team All-ACC last year. We also know Jeremiah Hasley, the tight end who caught 40 passes, 6 touchdowns, including the ACC championship game winner, will be heavily involved in the offense. They have 2 offensive linemen back. Matt Craycraft and Jordan Larson are back as part of 8 total returning starters, 4 on offense, 4 on defense for Duke. The returning starters, I reference what CBS Sports has put up there. You have 4 guys on defense, Luke Murgott, and then 3 defensive backs are back on defense for the Blue Devils on a Duke team that, listen, could beat you on offense, but still need some help defensively. They actually brought in, or they have 5 defensive backs with starting experience to fix the secondary. Duke has got some issues. They were 96th in scoring defense. They were dead last in the entire country in passing yards allowed. Dead last. We're talking about every FBS school, not just the Power 4. Duke was the worst pass defense in the entire nation. It is hard to be worse than that. So you would expect that Duke is going to improve there. It seems like Manny Diaz and this Duke coaching staff put a real emphasis on getting better there. And I think that's huge for them. I think, listen, you can't go anywhere but up. So if Duke can get better there, with the pieces they have on offense, I think that Duke has a chance to be pretty good if they can get decent quarterback play. If you look at the schedule, this one is interesting to me. There are a few things that I really like about this schedule, so I want to spend some time on this. They open with a Tulane team that obviously lost John Sumrall to Florida, but was a playoff team last year. Look, Tulane is not scared to play anybody, and they expect to go and play good teams and to compete with those teams. And Tulane is not going to be scared to play Duke. They also beat Duke last year, in New Orleans in a very competitive game. But Duke starts with Tulane. That's a home game for Duke. Then they go to Illinois, okay, which is going to be interesting. Brett Bielema and the Illini had all the expectations last year with Luke Altmaier at quarterback. Now, not quite as high of expectations. The next 2 are home games for Duke, Stanford and William & Mary. Then they go to Georgia Tech. They host rival North Carolina. They played a crazy game last year. We'll see what the Tar Heels look like in year 2 under Bill Belichick. Then Duke goes to Virginia in a rematch of last year's ACC championship game. Who would have ever thought that would have been the title game before the year? That will probably be a Friday game, I believe, October 23rd. And then they host Boston College, play at NC State. They go to Miami in a gigantic game, October 14th. And they end the year with a home game against Clemson, and then they go to Wake Forest on November 28th. So what are some things that stand out to me? First off, 3 of the first 4 are at home. Tulane, Stanford, and William & Mary. You'll typically see that for the Power 4 teams out there, that they play the majority of their early games at home. They avoid, and this is important, and let me backtrack. In the ACC, with the addition of Stanford and Cal, you have these long trips, East Coast to West Coast, that you could do. You're going to do one most years. Maybe the other one comes to your place, but you've got to deal with that long trip where the other team, sleeping in their own beds, they're in their time zone, they're not having to adjust 3 hours, you would typically believe have a pretty big advantage. Well, Duke doesn't go to the Pacific time zone at all this year. They also don't play at SMU. You could have that pretty long trip to SMU as well, which is Central Time, not Pacific Time. But they don't play SMU. They don't play at Stanford or Cal, which I think is gigantic. I mean, Stanford comes to Duke. They avoid California completely. And then SMU's not on the schedule either. So if you're a Duke fan, you have to be excited about that. If you look in ACC play, their longest trip, I believe, is it Miami? I mean, they go to Atlanta to play Georgia Tech. They play Virginia on the road, okay? They play at Miami. They play on the road at NC State and Wake Forest. Those are in-state games, right? So their longest road trip in ACC play is against Miami. Now, look, that's daunting. You're talking about a team that expects to be in the college football playoff. that was just in the national championship game, has reloaded with your starting quarterback, with your receiver, Cooper Barkate. There's going to be some hard feelings there, I assume, from the Duke faithful, which I understand. And that's going to be a tough challenge. So I'm not trying to take away how difficult it is to go play the defending runner-up nationally in Miami on the road, right? But Duke avoids some travel here. I would assume, and I have not broken down every ACC team. You can listen to the other ones I've done so far, Boston College and California. I assume Duke may travel less than any other team in the conference, which I think is huge. Now, the road trip to Illinois early on, week 2, it is a road game. There is going to be some travel there. But in ACC play, that Miami game is as far as they go. 8 of their 12 games are in North Carolina. Listen, that's insane. I mean, look, I'm going to count them. The Tulane game is in North Carolina. The Stanford game. William and Mary. The North Carolina game is at Duke, which is in North Carolina. Boston College, right? Then you have the Clemson game and Wake, right? So you were playing so many games within your home state. The other thing I want to add, transfer portal-wise, they did bring in an FCS All-American from Penn. Jared Richardson has caught almost 200 passes in his career, okay? That is huge for Duke on offense, okay? So I don't want to end this podcast without saying that. So maybe he comes in and takes Barkate's spot, fills in flawlessly, we'll see. And then Nick Delgran is a 35-game starter from Coastal Carolina along the offensive line as well. So there are really 3 guys who have started a lot of games in college football on that offensive line. So whether it's Eget or Mahan, they do have Shepard back. They're going to bring in Richardson. We'll see how he gets involved at the FBS level as opposed to the FCS level, right? And then they've got a pretty good offensive line in front of them. So could Duke be a surprise again in the ACC? You know, I don't think that many people are going into the year expecting this to be a top 20 team, right? Maybe a fringe top 25 team. And I feel like the schedule, again, sets up pretty well. I mean, I don't, Tulane and Illinois, I think, are both games that they could win or lose. Georgia Tech, obviously, does not have their quarterback back, Haynes King. He's moved on to the NFL. He's graduated. North Carolina and Virginia feel like coin flip games. NC State will be a tough challenge, I believe, on the road, as will Miami. And then who knows about Clemson, right? So, guys, listen, you are listening to episode 3 of the You Think You Know Sports podcast. I hope that you will hit the follow button and listen to this podcast while you're at the gym or while you're out walking the dog or working, whatever you're doing. That's the point in the podcast. I'm going to finish with these thoughts on Duke. Number 10 in turnover margin per game last year. Number 6 in interception percentage, meaning they didn't throw many with Mensah at quarterback. Barely any. So will Duke be able to hold on to the football? Typically, you regress there a little bit. So we'll see if the Blue Devils are able to keep those good fortunes going, because typically the ball is going to bounce the other way a little bit as well and work against you at some point if you're that good in the turnover margin from one season. Usually you see it go the other way the next year. Guys, it'll be fun to see what Duke does this year. On our next podcast, we're going to be talking about the Clemson Tigers. I can't wait to talk about the Tigers. I will see you there. Thanks for listening, and I hope that you'll hit the button to follow future podcasts from this channel.